everybody, and welcome to Air Tycoon Online 3. As you can see, we have 9 million or 9 billion in cash, which is the most we've had so far. And if we take a look at our net profit, we can see that we're really pushing some all-time highs. Um, Basically what we did here is we did a extremely large de-investment in service and advertising. The reason is we're starting to hit pretty good levels in service investment, and with a service level investment of just 3, we're still increasing, which is all I really worry about. And also a lot of the places where I was really trying to accelerate and increase my imaging um, are now reaching pretty good levels in the high 60s, with London and Paris and some of my more original hubs now pushing into very good levels, which are just doing really well. So I thought I would decrease the investment a little bit to finally really turn in and make some cash. And then as you can see overnight, in even the worst downtick, I was making 800,000, which is a really, really significant improvement from the previous downticks where we're in the 400,000s. Um, what I hope is that our yearly profit will do a massive increase, um, and we can finally start pushing for higher positions on the leaderboard. The leaderboard, we're now fourth. We were rapidly chasing down Cog. Uh, I don't think he'll be able to, stay ahead of us for very long. And we're also chasing down the top two, in the sense that we're now equal in profit to AirAsia, approximately. Um, if we take a look at his profit, let's see what it is right now. He's at 1 billion per turn, right? And wow, his fuel expense has decreased dramatically. Did he buy fuel tanks? That's kind of curious. No, he did not buy fuel tanks. Why did his fuel expense decrease 200,000? Yeah, you know what might be happening is he might be starting to make lesser. That's really strange. How do you decrease that much in fuel expense? And yes, fuel is also very expensive right now. Anyways, yeah, as you can see, we're making close to what he's making, right? We're not making quite as much, but why that's a good sign is by making the same amount, we make more money per dollar that we have than he does, right? We have roughly the same profit as half the value, so we have half the assets, um, driving driving profit, yet we are producing a very similar amount to him. Um, on another note, you can see that he is starting to invest in airports. Um, this is really, really unfortunate for us because airports are basically cheat codes in this game. Um, Later on, you can probably be making 1 billion or more from just airports. 1 billion, 2 billion, I've seen. And there's basically no stopping this. Uh, except for other good airport operators, right? One interesting, this bed I'm sitting on is really squeaky. But yeah, one interesting aspect of airports, right, is the better the airlines in the world, the more the airport profit is, right? In this world, there's not that many great airlines, probably due to the really poor World Traveler Index early on, forcing people into smaller planes and just less profits than they usually would be making. Um, so yeah, with that in mind, right? Profits aren't too great right now, and the fuel expense is just so high. Wow. Um, Also, like the fuel expense is high, but if we take a look at this, the World Traveler Index is really, really, really high right now. I don't know if this is sustainable or if this is just something that happens in the late 80s. I rarely play into the late 80s, as you guys know. Um, so yeah, now that it has happened, let's kind of see what we want to do. So if we take a look at some of our planes, here are the 767s. If we take a look at a random selection of one, right, with this high fuel price, they're making just over 4K. Um, these cost us a 1.6, uh, what's it called? 160 million approximately to order a 767. Our 747s now with this much improved World Traveler Index have seen a much smaller, swing in, occupancy. In fact, some of the downticks have just disappeared as downticks thanks to the really, really rapid increase in World Traveler Index. Um, let's go scroll up a bit and find some of our less good 747s. As you can see, the downticks have disappeared. So what this has kind of led me to think is we need to start leasing 747s again. Now, what I'm going to do is there are so many 747 routes, and I just have so many routes in general now that I need to make. I think the best strategy for what's it called? First of all, opening 747 routes is to replace existing 767s and other planes like 707s. Um, these 707s are really starting to age out. Oh, these things need to be replaced. Let's yeah, like these routes could totally be 747s now, right? So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and order a whole bunch of 747s, and kind of do this off camera. Uh, oh my God, I ordered one. Yeah, ordering these planes one by one is gonna take a while. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna throw in a bunch of orders. This will decrease our value a lot, right? But increasing our profits is probably worth it. And this is probably also the pattern I'm gonna do from here on out. Essentially, is instead of thinking about what plane I want to put on each route when I'm opening it, which would be kind of time consuming, kind of mentally exhausting in a sense, I'm gonna consider what plane I want to put on the route after I see how well it does with a smaller plane, and just based on my general knowledge of which cities are good and bad, and the World Traveler Index and such and such and such, right? Um, yeah, it's kind of an unexpected turn of events that the World Traveler Index is doing this well, and holy smokes, we can order a lot of 747-100s. How many are we at? 46. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting process to find a home for these, and yeah, that's all the 747s we can order, and we still have 6 billion. So I'm going to go ahead and replace a lot of planes off camera and then show you guys the routes. And I'm back, guys. So I actually ended up opening a whole bunch of routes with 747s, a whole bunch of new ones. I actually did this on camera and then forgot to restart the recording, so we won't talk about that. But yeah, as you can see, the kind of routes I was just prioritizing on these new 747s we ordered, of which we ordered a lot. I don't remember if I did that on or off camera, right? So we ordered a lot more 747s, right? And we placed a lot of them on some new routes, mostly stopovers to North America in our new hub, Atlanta, right? And then we also went and replaced a lot of old 767 routes with 747s. And here's a little experiment is how will a route like this do as a 747? This is used to be a 767, right? How will this do as a 747? On another note, right, is 767s. I have run out of like real ways to stop over 767s. Well, yes, there are still some ways to do so, right? Uh, but I've used most of them to Los Angeles. Like I'm saying this as I open a stopover route to Los Angeles. I understand the irony, but most of the stopovers to Europe, right, is there's no options anymore. Like for example, Palma de Mallorca to Los Angeles. All right, where do I stop over? Um, I've hit almost every city in like this area of the world. Like we have cities like Port Villa available now. Like we'll go ahead and open this, right? Um, but like you kind of see the problem here is even if we have a ton of cities available in Europe, which we definitely do, um, even a city like Bristol, right? Bristol to Los Angeles, and now where do we go? We go to Asia, and we got Guilin. It's not a proper stopover route. It's not a proper stopover route, and it's because the two cities are closer, flying this way around the world over Asia than they are flying the other way, and that makes it a legal stopover route, right? So there's no more options for stopover routes. So what if I just fly the planes directly to Europe, right? It's not really an innovative idea. I'm sure most of you guys fly direct routes all the time, right? I just usually do not. Um, so let's go ahead and use the last few stopover routes I can find, and then just open a bunch of direct routes. Uh, yeah, it's kind of funny because I always preach stopover, 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 right? But then here I am making direct routes. Um, there are, of course, advantages to direct routes. The main one of which is that they are direct. And what that obviously means is that you don't have to click very many times to open the routes, which honestly is an enormous plus. I'm not going to lie. It is a massive pain in the ass to get the extra clicks you usually need to make stopover routes. So let's go ahead and open a bunch of direct routes to Los Angeles. I think Los Angeles is probably like the biggest driver for these kind of routes because it is insanely big, Los Angeles, right? And also does not have a lot of stopover options, right? If these were stopover routes, I would still make them as stop. Like if these were possible to be stopover routes, at least I would still make these as stopover routes, um, right? And the main reasoning behind that is, well, Los Angeles is one of the biggest hubs in the world, right? And later on, we're gonna get some of the biggest planes in the world, right? Where we already have 747-100s, but we're gonna get A380s. We're gonna get, um, yeah, mostly just A380s. The future 747s are a little bit bigger than the older ones, right? Um, and yeah, that just would be a much better way to collect the demand, right? As in stopover routes on bigger planes instead of 767s direct. Um, yeah, it's just like it's just another way you can increase the profit instead of um, like flying more direct routes. Of course, we can't fly direct routes because Los Angeles is where it is in the world, which makes it very difficult to do so. So let's go ahead and open some direct routes and just kind of see how they do in comparison uh, to stopovers. One thing I do want to do is also fly some A330-100s, or no, not the A330-100s, A310-300s. Okay, I finally, yeah, that's what I meant to say the first time, right? They're not available yet, but I believe they're a very versatile stopover options. They're even smaller than the 767. Um, and yeah, if you don't see the power in that, basically what it is you can just continue to open routes which are even more obscure. You can fly direct routes, which you normally wouldn't open. Like for example, um, New York is a hub, which is great, but that there's like more limited stopover options, and I say that as I think that I can just make the stopover routes this way around the world. Can I? Ooh, see, yeah, it's not valid. So, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, my point stands, right? Is how do we open stopover routes this way around the world? We can do something like this, right? But Toulouse is the part of the route which has most of the demand, not the other way, right? So you can only open it direct. And what plane can you use? Well, A310s. Um, yeah, it's a really obscure plane, right? Because we don't really see this plane much IRL. But it is a fantastic plane. It is extremely cheap in game. Looking at that, yeah, long haul plane for 131 million. That's like a say no more kind of moment. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm just gonna go open a bunch of direct routes, which have been bothering me because they've just existed here for so long, and like they're great routes. So I'm gonna go ahead and open these actually. Um, yeah, just with 767s, that's fine, I do I, like generally want to exploit the 767's range, um, right? But if I can't, and it's like more work to do so than it is to just fly some direct 767 routes, I'm just gonna open the routes as direct 767 routes. Why not? Um, Another thing I do want to be doing, not exactly right now because I'm opening some direct routes, just to see how they do. I don't want to open too many. Let's stop here, right? It's just open a bunch of stopover routes. So I think Athens. I'm just gonna target Athens. I don't know why. I'm just feeling it, and we're just gonna open all sorts of silly stopover routes to Athens, um, kind of real rapid fire. Um, And then on the way back, I'm just gonna use the same city and probably go through Rome. I think that might be a way, like just to minimize the amount of movement I have to make on the map, if you know what I mean. Um, that is a great route, by the way. Chengdu to what's it called? Rome. Wow, or Chongqing. I mean, like that. It's a little bit strange that that's available. Most of the time, uh, players really over prioritize the Asian cities like Chongqing, just because most of the players are Asian. Like it's not a surprising reasoning, right? But like I'm just surprised to see that it's available. So that's a pleasant surprise, I guess. Um, and I think I'll connect it to Kano. And the reason I'm going to do this is later on, if I see this route, I can upgrade it to a 747, right? And the Kano leg is a bit shorter, so it can carry more demand, relatively speaking. Ooh, and there's Wuhan. Wuhan to Rome. And then roam back over to North America. Yeah, and this is just like the reason why I love flying to stopover routes to European major hubs is simply because this pattern of route creation is so satisfying. It is so fast, relatively speaking, right? That we can just kind of fly through and open all the routes we see and think are good just really quickly. And I like to, oh, what the hell? I mean, I just noticed that there's competition on the likes of Athens to Harbin. I wonder who is doing that. I'm not gonna check because I'm not bothered, right? But that's not completely usual, right? We usually see uh, people doubling down on major hubs instead of focusing on multiple smaller hubs, which is a bit of a mistake, in my opinion, in general. Um, Most of the time, um, like smaller cities like Santiago de Cuba, like just every city that sits around this 300 business and tour mark, or is even a little bit smaller, right? It's just so massively overlooked. And I just noticed that we have New Delhi available. Yeah, there used to be a really good player in New Delhi, but they're gone now. So we have routes like Rome to New Delhi. Okay. You know what I really wish existed, right? Is the what's it called? Concord in this game used to be extremely profitable when you could find a good route for it. I think what ended up happening is I don't know if it's nerfed or it's like the new pricing model just doesn't really favor the Concord. Um, and why that's kind of sad is because I always used to love to make my most profitable route just one random Concord somewhere. Excuse me. I can't believe this, but I'm still a little bit sick. It's been nearly 3 weeks IRL. Could be long COVID or something. I'm not really sure. Um, Whatever it is, it's annoying. But we'll deal with it, right? It's not the end of the world. It's like mild in the sense that the symptoms I feel are very manageable. I don't feel too bad because I have the symptoms. But just having the symptoms for so long is also just kind of annoying. Anyhow, we have 37 more 767s. This is going to take forever to use on camera, so I'll be back when they're done. All right, guys, and with 6 minutes left in the tick, we've basically finished up here. So, one thing I first want to do is I want to sell um, these out of lifespan planes. I forgot to click the sell all other planes with a less lifespan than this. I should have clicked that earlier. We have two which are still in life, but I'm not sure if I will use them. Yeah, it's just I'm not bothered anymore. Like these two blefs have been sitting here for a long time. Um, yeah, just super, super annoying and painful to use. So yeah, the last thing I need to do is, of course, set the prices. If you forget to do this, it's going to be a rough time. Um, Also, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do this specifically for first class as I upgrade a lot of 707s to, what's it called? 767s or 747s, right? And yeah, that I need the price of the first class to be set to an actual number instead of 1.0, which would not be very profitable. Anyhow, I'm going to wait for the turn to pass and see the result. Now, what will happen for sure probably is that we will lose some profit, as profit almost always goes down, of course, when you open new routes. Um, and then it's like on the next like ticks, that's when you really see the result. So yeah, be back in a bit. All right, guys, the turn is passed, and let's take a look at our profits here. And yeah, as you can see, a massive drop, when big increase in fuel and lease, and all those expenses, with not so big of an increase in profit until, of course, those routes get some time to ramp up. Let's take a look at some of the 747 routes, because this is what I'm kind of curious about. Is how did some of the 747 like replacements do? Like, how is this route doing, for example? And wow, it's 100% full on both legs, which is really good to see. What about like New York to Helsinki? And yeah, it's also almost 100% full on both legs. So that's really good to see. Anyways, yeah, that probably means most of those routes are going to be quite successful. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.